The fact that this man could tell me that the client is a charity case and refused to send nurses to help. So I was like the last standing nurse. The rest of the nurses folded and they all went to get more money and I refused to fold. And he was just like, I don't know why, this is such a charity case. So he was like, but what you can do is I can pay you 40 hours and then you can bill the rest for yourself. I said, okay, can you show me how? That was his worst mistake. They fired me. I immediately that year made my first 100,000. I've been consistently making for the past 6 years over 200,000.
What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel in our series, Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. Today's guest has a story that's going to blow your mind. She started out just making $12 an hour as a CNA in an assisted living facility, but now she's a private duty nurse bringing in over $200,000 a year. And she built this life as someone with no experience running a business. But it wasn't easy. She was raised by a single mom, dropped out of school multiple times, and worked her way up from the bottom. She took a pay cut just to stay with her first private duty patient because the connection meant more than just the paycheck. And when the agency told her her patient was just a charity case, she knew it was time to take control. She figured out how to bill Medicaid directly, opened her own private duty business, and tripled her income almost overnight. Now she's making six figures consistently for the last 6 years, and she's about to level up even more. If you've ever wondered how to go from hourly CNA pay to building a six-figure nursing business, you need to hear this story. All right, let's get into it. Tell us what your name is and what it is that you currently do for a living.
Hello, my name is Bianca Benoit. I am a registered nurse. I work privately as a private duty nurse and independent contractor.
Okay. All right. So I've never interviewed a private duty nurse. So I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation because I know there's a lot of nurses that watch my videos who are also very interested in this. But before we get to that conversation, I want you to tell me, like, where did you grow up? Who are you as a person? I want you to just tell me a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, I grew up in Yonkers, New York. If anybody knows the Mary J. Blige's and the Jadakisses and whatever Yonkers is known for, I grew up in Yonkers. I grew up in poverty, in the hood, and I just knew that I wanted better for myself. So I went from having severe behavior problems, getting kicked out of every school. I was pretty much a high school dropout, a middle school dropout, elementary school dropout. I was a dropout altogether. And I knew, like, my mother, she is originally from Jamaica. My father is from Haiti. And growing up, my parents were not together. So my mom raised me on her own. And all the sacrifices that my mother made, I knew that the life that I was living was not the life that she was sacrificing her whole life for. So that was the first recognition of self accountability that I started taking. Like, I knew my life wasn't going in the right path, and I knew that this is not what my mother deserved. And then thinking about my mom and then thinking about myself, I also knew, like, I was way too fly to be somebody's baby mama. Like, just to be like, staying in the trenches in the hood. I was like, I like nice things. I like my environments like clean and bougie, and this is not it. So I decided to, like, just do a 360, really invested in myself. And I ended up making it to college, thank God, where I started applying for scholarships. And I was not excelling so well when I initially first started college because of my history of not being so present in school. But when I started applying to scholarships and I was granted scholarships to go to college, I don't know, it just did something. I was already in a transitional phase. And if anybody is trying to transition from one season to another, it's not easy. I'm just going to use a metaphor. Like, you had to change your clothes, right? So I had to change the way how I was even wearing, my attitude, my speech, my everything. So I had to change my environment. I had to change everything and just focus on what I wanted. But nonetheless, when I was granted those scholarships, I ended up getting into an LPN program. I graduated like second in my LPN class. Then I went to get my RN and I super exceeded in RN. Like people were like, "Can you help me study? Like you do so well. Oh my gosh." And it was just on from there. Like I don't know what it was, but nursing just like clicked to me. Like nursing, I have to say, is not easy, especially in the beginning. Nursing is not easy, but going from having really hard challenges like scholastically and just, overall just trying to be a better person all around. Um, nursing was just amazing and it granted me so many opportunities that I'm just so thankful for.
You said that your mother raised you on her own. Did you have any siblings?
No, not growing up with me. Like, I do have siblings from my father, but they were raised outside of our home. I don't recognize them as half anything like they are like my brothers. I have three brothers, but they are not my mother's children. So I just grew up with just me and my mom.
Wow. And I know for people who don't know where Yonkers is, I mean, I I know where
Definitely
Yonkers is. We
concrete,
actually have
concrete
family.
jungles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
We
definitely cousin of the Bronx. And if you know
yeah, it,
anything about the
some
Bronx,
parts of Yonkers may be nice,
yeah.
but there's some sketchy parts of Yonkers that you got to
Yeah,
be
so I
careful
started off in the sketchy part, but my mom
of.
worked really hard to get us to the little bougie part, you know? And I'm so now I literally just say like I'm a Westchester girl because once I started kind of like elevating, a lot of Yonkers was just like, "You're not who you used to be. You're too good for us now," and it kind of like threw me out. So I just be like, "Whatever, then. I'm from Westchester. That's it. Period."
And what did your mom do for a living?
My mom actually, she was a deli manager at Stop and
Oh,
Shop. Yeah.
wow. Wow, she was a hard worker then to
She
be
was
able
a
to do all of that
she
by
still
herself.
is. Oh my goodness, through the grace of God, she's getting ready to retire. I'm so thankful, and I'm so thankful, like, I turned my life around. Like, my mom, she would, like, work so hard that the heels on her feet would crack and bleed, and I could cry now because, I mean, it was just a whole thing. So me getting in trouble with the police, getting kicked out of everywhere, and just seeing my mom, like, how hard she would work, like, to the point, like, her feet were bleeding, and this is all I had to offer her. Like I was like, no, 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 no. I'm so glad that I changed because I spoil my mom. She doesn't even know the last time she paid for a flight, and she takes like 2 vacations a year. And
Wow.
she knows like my daughter got me.
That's awesome. I remember one of my first interviews was with this nurse. His name is Oliver. And I remember when I interviewed him, he told me that his mother was injured in an earthquake in the 1990s, driving over a bridge in San Francisco that partially collapsed, like it was like severely
That's
damaged,
so
and
scary. Oh my God.
he was permanently disabled as a result of that earthquake.
Wow.
And ever since then, he's been like pretty much helping to support his parents, and I just thought, to me, that was very touching. Like, for you, your parents must have raised you really well in order for you
Yeah.
to
They did
do
go
those things
role
for
model-
them, right?
good
Yeah.
modeling. Yeah.
Um, and it's sad though, because in the comments section, you get people like, "Oh, you're doing too much for your parents." Like, I would never do all of that. Like, you're a
Oh, my
grown
mom
adult. They're an
sacrificed her
adult.
whole
They're
life.
adults. They should be able
Yeah.
to fend for themselves. Like, how do you think so selfishly like that, right? Um,
Yeah. But I think that this is what makes people different in general. There's a lot of battle scars with just being a human.
yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, for me, it's so easy to become jaded, not just for me, but for any human. It's
Mhm.
easy to become jaded and selfish and this and that. But I just remember, like, honestly, like, I'm not religious, but I put God first in everything. Like, I love God. And then I also think about young me, like, even in any like circumstances, like I think like if I was to get sick today, who would I be able to call to come and help me? And honestly, like I can't count like almost anybody to come and help me. So what I enjoy is recognizing that and then being that person that I wish I had. So I enjoy being the person that I wish would have spoke some real tea to me. Some people just like to hear what they want to hear. But I'm not that girl. I sometimes you need to hear what you need to hear. It's not
Yeah.
about what you want all the time, it's what you need. And I do this with love, I do this with care, I do this with wisdom and consideration. And like, I don't know, my fruits and my results of my life, it speaks volumes of, I may not have all the answers for your life, but, you know,
Yeah.
let me be there for you. Let me
Absolutely.
help you.
Yeah. So, how did you pay for schooling? Like, I know you said you got scholarships, right?
Yeah.
But your LPN degree, like, how did you pay for that?
Love it. So I'm gonna tell you. So before I got into school, before I got into LPN school, so before I got into my nursing journey, I went to a community college. And my mom never went to college before, so she didn't know. But she was like, you could take out a loan to help you pay for school. And I was like, okay, I'll take out a loan. And I'm like 18. So I signed up to get a loan and I got $5,000. And like $5,000 at 18 years old, I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I was rich. So I don't know if anybody knows the Bronx, but I went to straight to Fordham Road and I bought all these cheap clothes and all this nonsense. And I look back and I seen like that $5,000 started accruing interest. And I was like, oh snap. Like I really had to pay this money back. I was like, this is what? So once I got into my LPN program, I was like, oh, I learned a lesson. I was like, I'm never taking out any loans. So I grinded. I worked full time. So I worked in a assisted living facility. I worked in an assisted living facility and I worked. So I said, let me work as a CNA. So I got my CNA. I said, let me work as a CNA since I want to go on this nursing path. Let me see what nurses do. So let me just take my time. And again, like, I'm building myself, like my studying skill, I'm building myself scholastically. So I couldn't just go into RN because I didn't have the study skills or the scholastic skills to succeed. So I had to do it step by step. So I was a CNA, and that is how I put myself through LPN school, and I grinded. I grinded. I paid my own tuition. I paid all that money back and I paid my way through LPN school and I paid my way through RN school and I'll be paying my way through NP school.
So, at this point, do you have any loans at all?
No,
Wow.
not at all.
How much did it cost for your tuition for the LPN program and then for RN schooling?
Well, I graduated LPN in 2015. While that wasn't like so long ago, it was kind of almost like long enough that I don't necessarily remember,
Mm.
but I can say that it was about 10, or I think it was less than $10,000.
Oh,
And
cool.
then I got about $4,000 in scholarships. So I think I paid about like 6,000 for my LPN.
And how did you find out about these scholarships?
Honestly, just hearing, so overhearing people talking about it, because I'm like, I'm paying for school out of pocket. I'm like, yo, this is expensive. And it's funny because like I changed like my whole circle. So again, like this is me changing and growing into better seasons, into better versions of myself. So the only people I knew were people in my class. So my classmates, my coworkers, and I would try to like just speak to any counselors or like any body wiser than I was. So just speaking to wiser people, I remember I spoke to a counselor and I was just telling her like, I'm paying for school out of pocket. And she was like, did you know that there is so much money that goes uncollected from scholarships? I was like, no, I didn't know that. And she was like, try it out. And I did. I wrote one essay and I submitted it to at least 40 different, the same essay to like 40 different scholarships. I literally got a scholarship for Chinese artwork. What is that? I don't even know, but they had $1,500 for me
Mm.
for school. I applied to like I'm an advocate to apply for those scholarships. A lot of people. So this was a conversation that I was just overhearing and I was listening to, and they were just like, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of
Mm.
dollars that goes unclaimed because people just think. whatever preconceived notions that they have about scholarships. It's like you have to be having a 4.0 GPA to get these scholarships. You have to be Ivy League to get these scholarships. And that is not the case. Because when I first started LPN, I think my grade point average coming from my community college was like a 1.5.
What?
And even in my community college, before I got into my LPN program, from applying to those scholarships, gave me full tuition for the semester.
And how did you, what websites did you go to get these scholarships?
The college websites,
Oh.
the college websites have a full scholarship column that is just like, here are scholarships and here's the list. And literally it's list and list and list of scholarships
Mm.
for everything. For being left-handed, for being Latina, for being black, for being a single parent, for being this, but for everything.
That is amazing. Most people that I interview had student loans. The majority of the nurses that I've interviewed had student loans. There were a few that I've interviewed. One of them, she ended up paying in total 3,000, like 3,295 or something like that, about $3,000 for her LPN, RN, BSN, and MSN, all of that,
Nice.
because she used government programs to pay
Wow.
for it. Yeah, so
That's
that she's
awesome.
one of the few that I've
That's
interviewed.
awesome. I'm about to be on her. So I newly applied for my nurse practitioner. I want
Mhm.
to go for psychiatric mental health nurse
Wow.
practitioner. And I already scouted it out. I'm like, there goes the scholarship column. I'm gonna be right up in there once I get my acceptance letter. I
Wow.
will be.
Yeah. That's, I think so psychiatric nurse practitioners do so well nowadays because we have such a lack of mental health services in
Mhm.
this country that we are in desperate need of mental health
Yeah,
workers, especially practitioners.
yeah.
And one of the nurses that she was a psychiatric nurse practitioner that I interviewed previously. Her name is Iman.
I
She
seen
made like
that.
six hundred
I
thousand
seen that
dollars.
one. That was the interview that inspired me
Mm,
to come onto your show.
mm.
First of all, she was from Yonkers.
Yes.
She's Jamaican. I thoroughly remember that interview, and I said, "Oh," because I was already like thinking about being a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner because I do have a passion for seeing others thrive. I have a passion for people living their fullest life because I've experienced lows just like anybody. I've experienced the darkest times, and I know, like, it's a thing that just is a part of nature in this journey of life.
Mhm,
And then I also know what it feels like to climb out of that in healthy things to keep yourself up, that you can really thrive and live the most fullest life of your choosing. You don't have to let life choose for you. Like, you know how to say life be life in? Well,
yeah.
you can honestly have control and pilot the way how life sometimes, just by doing some healthy things and making wiser decisions.
Mm. You graduated with your LPN degree in 2015, right? Somewhere around there.
From Southern
How
West
and
Bossies.
you I'm sorry?
From Southern Westchester Bossies. It was a
Okay.
phenomenal school. Yeah.
And you were working as a CNA before you got your LPN degree.
During my
Yeah.
LPN program, that is how I paid my way, was by being a CNA, working as a CNA.
And then it was in an assisted living facility, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember how much you were making at the time?
Oh my gosh. I remember I was making $12. I was making $12 an hour, but the assisted living facility that I worked at, it was super bougie. Like, I love my job. I mean, I take pride. I don't know what it is. I just love taking care of vulnerable people.
Mm,
Like, I loved it. I worked in mostly worked in the Alzheimer's unit.
mm,
And these people, they were so wealthy once upon a
mm,
time.
mhm,
These were like executives, CEOs, diplomats that came down upon this disease of Alzheimer's and the different differentiating versions of it. There's different forms of Alzheimer's, like Lewy body, frontal lobe, etc. So it was just so fascinating to see, like, these once very respectable, strong leaders in their field succumb to this disease and literally like turn into a child again, where they need to be fed, toileted, and everything. And nonetheless, I started off at $12 and I ended up with $13. And I was like, oh, moving on up. I'm getting $13 an hour.
So, what was the hardest part of that job for you?
The hardest part of the job was probably seeing like the families come and the families sharing their experience with their mom, with their dad. You know, the children are now older and they're just like, wow, like my father was the leader of our house. You know, my father or my mother, they love to do these activities. They organize these activities. They were the CEO of like large companies and all of these people. And now, you know, here is my mom with like a baby doll, like crying for her mom and babbling back and forth. And it was just like, wow, like, is this what I have to look forward to? Like, you know, it kind of makes you like a little paranoid because it's like, here I am. I'm glad to render my care and my service, but it's a little fearful of like, is this my future? You know, am I gonna look like this? And I'm like, ultimately, I don't know what I'm gonna look like in the later years. That's why I have to make it a point to live my fullest life while I have the opportunity and while
Mm,
I can.
I agree. Yeah. And then okay, so in 2015, you got your your LPN degree, and at what point did you decide that you wanted to go into nursing school?
Oh, I knew that from when I was in LPN, even
Mhm.
though they call LPN lower paid nurse.
That's actually the first time I've heard of that. That's it's
LPN
the
really
truth.
stands for licensed
Unfortunately, it's the
practical
truth.
nurse, but we say lower paid nurse. And I started working in home care. So I
Mhm,
started working privately, one to one as an LPN. I did go through the streets of hard knocks, working in long term care facilities, and not the same bougie one that I was a CNA at. I ended up working as an LPN in the Bronx, and I was like, oh, this is ghetto. I was like, let me try something else. I was tired of crying in the closets. So I was like, let me try something else. So I did originally sign up with an agency and they introduced home care. So what I did not mention is I also nannied during like I just always been a hustler. Like I just is always moving, you know. The $13 might have sounded cute, but I know realistically I'm like, let me get some more money. So while I was working there, I also nannied.
mhm,
And I just love that personal care, like one to one as a babysitter. And I love, like, you know, I get to be with these children and then like give them back to their parents, like just make sure everything's safe and everything's good. I'm naturally a caretaker, it's just in my nature. So when I was introduced now as a nurse to working one to one with patients with disabilities or, you know, that need nursing care at home, it was easy for me to transition into that because I was already doing like nannying. So it was almost like I still get to be a nanny. Like it's a little bit more invasive because, you know, there's different disabilities that people are dealing with in their homes. But if you can find the right home, you can make yourself at home.
it's true.
So, did I answer the question?
Yeah, no, no, yeah, for sure. So, because you said after you got your LPN degree, you started working at another facility that was too ghetto for you. So then
It
you
was
got
hard.
hooked up to an agency that introduced you to home
To
care.
home care,
Okay.
yeah. So
And
working one-on-one. So
uh,
I was introduced to working one-to-one with the patient. So I got a break from, like, running up and down to all these different patients, all these different families, all these different things, and I got to slow down and focus on one patient,
mm,
and I was hooked. It
yeah.
was
So what did your work days look like at the time? Because you said you were nanny, like you were a nanny as well as now you're a nurse doing one-to-one care for patients in the home care setting.
Oh, well, in the home care setting, oh man, I have a picture of my patient like that I'm looking at right now. I'm not even gonna like pan the camera, but I worked with my patient. She was my one particular patient. I worked with her for almost a decade.
Oh, wow.
And she was everything. Like she was my whole schedule. Although I must say I appreciate home care because it did allow me the flexibility to be able to live my full life. I was able to work with the patient, work with the other nurses. I ended up becoming like her agency. I ended up finding her nurses for her and everything. But nonetheless, I will be working like 16-hour shifts. Like a lot of times my main schedule is working nights. So I would work from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Well, no, lo and behold, the morning nurse called out, or we don't have a morning nurse, or, what have you. So I would end up working, another shift with her. I mean, you can only bill for 16 hours, but I'm in a cozy home. Like I was lucky. I
Mhm.
was lucky. And there is homes like this that, you essentially become a part of their family. You are a main force in their family, especially like, parents who really love their children or their loved one, their husband, whoever. And if you're helping them take care of their loved one, they're going to treat you like amazing. Like they're making me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're like, get here again. Okay, well, you can use a shower, take a shower, bring your extra clothes, whatever, and we get the job done. So I was working a lot. I was working a lot. I would work, but I was able to choose my schedule, luckily. So I would be off on the weekends. I didn't work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I would work Monday through Thursday, whatever. It was really 8 to 8. But if I needed to stay extendedly, I would, and I wouldn't argue about it. I just did what I had to do for my patients.
Mhm. And so how, you said you did this when you started working as an LPN, correct? But you ended up getting your RN license.
Right,
How
right,
long into that job did you end up getting your RN license?
right. That was the original question.
Uh-huh.
So, while working as an LPN, I already knew that I could not stop at as an LPN. So we already said lower paid nurse, and I'm a hustler. So I'm like, if I'm gonna be doing what the nurses do, like RNs, like I might as well be in RN, you know. So I did that pretty much. So I graduated 2015. It did take me a little longer than expected, but I ended up graduating with my RN in 2020.
Okay. And what school did you go to for that one?
I went to SUNY Rockland Community College for my associates in RN.
Oh, that's in upstate New York, right? By Rockland County.
Yeah, it is in
Oh.
Rockland County.
So at this point, were you living in Westchester?
Yes.
Oh, and when did you decide to move to Westchester? Because you were living in Yonkers for pretty much your whole life.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was living in my mom's house, and you can't do that. I can't stay there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my mom, I was old enough to fly the coop. So I did. I mean, I stayed in Westchester. I moved to Ossining in Westchester, and now I'm getting ready to move to Texas. So,
What?
yes.
Okay, we're gonna get into that. Yeah, I want to know how that's gonna work out. Okay, all right. So it's 2020. You've got your RN license, and you still at this point you're still working with this one patient,
Yeah,
right?
and I knew I was gonna stay with her. So throughout my nursing courses for my RN now,
Mhm,
we're going through clinicals, and a lot of my classmates, they would say, Bianca, especially when it came to psych,
mhm.
when it came to peds, when it came to almost like in every field, they were like, "You will be this great nurse here. What do you want to do when you graduate?" I'm like, "Home care." Even my clinical instructors, they were like, "Home care, that's not real nursing. Like, you're not really gonna get any skills or get paid or anything out of that." And I'm like, "Okay." And and little do they know, I mean, I make way more than even like a lot of nurse practitioners.
Wow.
I was
Mhm.
making doctor money as a
Yeah.
home care nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and I want you to tell me and break this down a little bit for me then. How did because you were working with an agency. Is it still with
Yeah, I'm gonna
that same
tell you this part.
agency?
I'm gonna tell you this part.
Okay.
So, I was working with an agency when I was introduced to the family. Man, that agency was so trash. So So they were paying me like $22, and my patient was total care. So she was
Mm,
total care. She was a total quadriplegic. She was not on a trach and vent at the time. She G tube and different, skilled nursing. She needed 24-hour nursing, and I was getting $22. And the agency, they loved my nursing, but they were so mad because she was Medicaid, and what it was is like they weren't getting a lot of money for sending nurses to care for my client. And I already had such a strong rapport with my patient and my patient's family. I was there even beyond the money. Like I would take a pay cut. Like the agency would really try to convince me, please, I want to pay you more. I want to give you more money and this and the other. But I love my job so much, I was willing to take a pay cut. So it was one day that the agency was like, you know what? This case, I don't know why you don't want to move from this case. This case is a charity case.
wow.
And I mean, the fact that this man could tell me that the client is a charity case and refuse to send nurses to help. So I was like the only last standing nurse. The rest of the nurses folded and they all went about their business to get more money. And I was the last nurse and I refused to fold. And he was just like, I don't know why, this is such a charity case. And little did he know, the client, she had won a Make a Wish. She had won a Make a Wish through the Make a Wish Foundation, and they granted her a week on a Disney cruise. So the family invited me to come on the Disney cruise. So before I severed ties with the agency did me a favor and they put me on. He was like, I cannot pay you for like any overtime for working this week. Now, mind you, this is like 24 hours, right? That I'm going to be with my client on this Disney cruise. So think about home care, right? You could have like, you could be access like opportunities like this, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, but what you can do is I can pay you 40 hours and then you can bill the rest for yourself.
Mm.
I said, okay, can you show me how? That was his worst mistake. That was his worst mistake. He showed me, he just told me what to do. And I was like, boom, got it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like they found any reason to like, I was so glad they found any reason to fire me. It was so funny. They found it was like some petty nonsense. I can't even remember. She was like, you said you worked this date, but on your nursing note, it was like off by an hour. It was like something so silly that they fired me. And little do they know they fired me from the agency, but meanwhile, that's still my client.
Oh, that's amazing though. The way that that happened, they didn't realize that they were giving you the key that you needed
Do
to
that.
then let go of that agency. You no longer
And they
needed
let me go. I said, thank God. Thank God. And they don't even know what they did. So with that agency at cap, I was
them.
going to be making, I think, less than $40,000 as an LPN. When they fired me, I immediately that year made my first 100,000 in my life working
Wow.
the same case, the
That's
same
insane.
case working for myself. And no, when I became an RN, I knew I was going to stay on my case
Mm,
and get even more paid to work the same case that I ended up doubling my income. So that 100,000 turned into 200,000
mm,
just getting
mm,
my RN.
yeah. So, why did your income double, basically? I know you said you were billing yourself at this point, but how does that work? Like,
So,
why? I know why, but I want my audience to know, right? Because the agency is keeping a lot of what they're
yes.
paying you, right? So, but
So as
yeah.
I had said, the agency was paying me about $22.
Mhm.
Okay. Now in New York State, Medicaid pays LPNs $44.
Mm,
And then if you have special, like, so there are some medically fragile children, You can even get an even more enhanced rate to maybe like even $48 working as
Mhm.
an LPN. So if I was working for that same company as an RN, I might have been making $32. But working independently, billing for myself through Medicaid, I was making $68.
Wow. And was it a complicated process to start billing on your own?
Um, for me, it really wasn't. I just say like to have a little patience when you first initially start. So, my client initially, she didn't have private duty nursing. Um, she had agencies that the state qualified her for. She didn't have private duty nurses. So initially, we opened her private duty nursing for her to have independent contractors come in and service her. So that took about 3 months to just have that paperwork processed, to have, like, me as a nurse and just her case examined through Medicaid and through the New York State Department of Health, have it looked at, have the doctors approve of everything, for her to have private duty nursing. So for people who may not have patience, who just think, oh, like, just hurry up and get this money, maybe 3 months might be a long time for them to start the case. But if the case is already active, right? So if the case is already active, where there's a lot of people who already do have Medicaid approved prior authorization, if they already do have prior authorization for Medicaid for nursing service, then it's like that. It's one, two, three. It is a thing to learn how to bill. Each patient may have different billing. I'm lucky that I've had a few patients and it's still the same cycle, like same process of billing. I do need to come up with a course because I know for people who this is like completely foreign to them, they wouldn't know how, and they can definitely reach out to me because I know.
And this is what I want to get down to. As someone who didn't have any experience with this whatsoever, your employer told you, "Hey, you can bill these services
Medicaid
on your
direct,
own."
yes.
Yeah. How did you even know which government agencies to contact, how to apply for these reimbursements, and like how did you follow up? Like
I
walk me
need to
step.
start. I need to have a package for this. Like I need to be balling this up and selling it.
Yeah.
But and maybe we could discuss that in the future. But it's literally
Mhm,
free
mhm,
to go on to. So for New York State, you go on to, it's called eMedNy. Okay. And you literally, like, there is some prompts, but you literally look up nursing, private duty provider, and literally it tells you step one, fill this out, send it back. Step two, fill this out, send it back. Wait for us. We'll get back to you, and they will get back to you. And then you're in there. But nobody teaches you how to bill. Luckily, I had somebody who taught me how to bill one time, and I never forgot it. So I learned how to build at one time. But again, I know that I will be working on a package for nurses to learn how to become independent contractors and work for themselves. Right now, I do have my business that I'm creating. I'm newly growing it, called PDN for You, Private Duty Nurses, which will connect, because that's like the next step. Right now, I'm a private duty nurse. Now what? How do I find clients? How do I find families? Well, I want to be able to assist
mhm. I love
connecting
it.
independent nurses with families in need.
Your ambition is, it's commendable because not many people have as much ambition as you've displayed through your career. Because I've, I speak to a lot of nurses, whether it's at work, whether it's through my YouTube channel, I get comments from people all the time. And people are always trying to find answers to questions, but they don't necessarily, once they get those answers, they don't necessarily take action. right? But
Yeah.
like,
And that's
what?
the thing that I fight with myself too, even though and it's so crazy because it's like even I fight through imposter syndrome just
Mhm,
being like publicly displaying myself.
mhm,
But like I really am that. Like I
mhm,
really live my life like this. Like I really do that. Like I literally went like I work full time, like I service my patient day in and day out and still went on like 7 vacations
wow.
in the year. Like I
Yeah.
was still in Puerto Rico, like after I busted my like two week shift or 1 month shift or whatever. I was still like, all right, don't call me for a week and a half. I'll be back. And I was sipping margaritas on the beach somewhere, like for real. And I didn't have nobody paying for anything, still putting myself through school, still paying for all of my vacations. Like I vacation so much, they're like, are you a travel nurse? I'm like, no, I'm just a nurse that likes to travel. Like so
and
I
and
still had a
and
lot of
it
flexibility.
and it's the fact that you started at, you said, like $12 an hour. You went
Yeah,
up to like $13 an hour, then
yeah,
$22 an hour, and
yeah.
now you've been consistently making how much?
So I've been consistently making for the past 6 years over 200,000.
If you're interested, I do have a program and I show you what step to take if you're interested in moving to Northern California and earning more than $200,000 a year while working fewer than 40 hours a week. So I do that in my coaching program. You guys can click on the link in the description as well as the link in the top comment. All right, so let's keep going here.
Yeah, so it can fluctuate.
Yeah.
Sometimes your client gets hospitalized, so
Mhm.
that can play a role. But for me, it has been consistent. My main client, unfortunately, she did expire. That was a very big deal. I was so happy to work with my client. They gave her 1 week to exist outside of the intensive care unit, and with the love and devotion of her nurses, she lasted 10 extra months
Wow.
longer. And I was able to throw her the most beautiful birthday ever. Like, she ended up with a trach and vent. She didn't want that, but I like covered her holes in like beautiful fabric and flowers. I put some color in her cheeks and the beautiful dress, and all her friends and family got to see her for the last time smiling in good spirits. And she was gone 3 weeks later.
That's just, I think, you're like the epitome of what nurses should be like, because this is why nursing is the most trusted profession. It's because of people like you who truly do it because you really value the person that you're taking care of, right?
Yeah.
Um, like I've made videos in the past where I talk about how I got into nursing because I've worked several jobs in the past. I've gotten laid off and I felt like I didn't want to live in the streets, right? That's why I initially got into it. But in the same breath, this is not something I talk about all the time on the YouTube videos, but just like you, I was raised by a single mother, right? Like I saw how much my mother struggled to raise us. I have three other siblings,
Mm,
and during that time, like I saw how much my mother had to like deal with health problems, multiple surgeries that she had to endure, and I witnessed the way that the nursing staff treated her in the hospital setting,
mm,
and that's one of the main reasons why I chose nursing over anything else. Because I could have gotten into computer programming, I could have
yeah,
chosen anything else, but I chose nursing because I felt like, yeah, I could make money, but I could also change someone's life. Right? You can't do that in any other profession.
right,
Um,
right.
so that's why I still do it today. And now what I try to do is change the face of nursing in a different way because I feel like we're not acknowledged for the hard work that we do. Right.
Yeah.
Um, and part of that acknowledgement has to do with the pay that we receive from our employers. Look what happened to you. Like you
Mm,
were getting paid $22 an hour when you could have been getting paid much more than
48.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly. $40 an hour, right?
Hmm.
So that's what I find to be my purpose now, is like to make sure that nurses feel like they are valued for the work that they do, because
Right.
they put everything in and their heart and soul into their profession.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
most nurses do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why there's a lot of nurses that are miserable and
Yeah,
burnt out because
exactly.
they are pouring so much and then they're receiving so little.
Mhm.
And a lot of times like you just want to feel appreciated
Yeah.
sometimes. Yes, you want to feel appreciated in your finances, and you want to also be appreciated in your finances.
Yes.
No, but like you just like a simple thank you and like you mean so much
Mhm.
really goes a long way,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's like even like working in hospitals, like I can understand, the patient's burnout. You're being overworked, you're being micromanaged. I don't thrive in environments where I'm being micromanaged because let me tell you something, I am an excellent nurse, but I am not perfect. I'm not dot my T's and cross my I's type of girl. Just let me rock and everything is gonna go fine.
Mhm.
And literally, I like only reason why I can say that confidently because I had to prove that to myself.
Mhm.
I can sympathize with you. I don't know if it's empathize or sympathize, but I can relate to you when you're saying like, you got laid off a few times because yes, I am that girl. If you're gonna be looking at me with the microscope, you might see me, scratching places that I'm not supposed to, and oop, I'm fired. It's like it's like, oh snap. But
Mhm.
then like I thrive in environments where it's like, just let her be her. Sometimes there's like a method to my madness. And the patients love my energy. And then I do prioritize safety. So like we're all safe. It may not be like by the textbook or whatever, but like everything is gonna get done accordingly.
Yeah.
Just let me rock.
Mhm.
And you can't really do that in hospitals and you can't really do that in like certain environments. So that's why I love home care because it's like, okay, it might not be perfect, but look, we gonna get this boat going, okay? We gonna get it rocking over here. And everybody thrives.
Yeah.
And it works because my patient unfortunately expired
Mhm.
and I ended up getting other patients through like word of mouth, even
Yeah.
with my nannying, just me showing up as me. And this goes into a thing for like anybody who deals with rejection and being told that they're not good enough. Don't feed into that. It is good to take accountability, to have self accountability for faults. Like maybe you did mess up, maybe you were imperfect there, but it's not for you to be perfect. It's for you to be safe. And who said you can't do you? You
Mhm.
could do you as long as you're being safe, okay?
Mhm.
And you can thrive.
Yeah.
So I am queen of rejection. And somehow, somehow, some way, God just does it to like show me, like, girl, as imperfect as you are worthy of everything that you want in the life that you want to live because my heart is pure, my intentions are in the right place. And that's why I just thrive. I don't know how.
Mhm.
I don't know how, but it's just like God just works it out just because I feel like internally, like God knows my heart and my heart really is set in a good place regardless of whoever doesn't understand. But the fruits of my labor shows and
Yeah.
people love my nursing.
Mhm. It must be difficult when, you're taking care of a patient for an extended period of time, months, years, multiple years, and then the patient ends up passing. Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah. So honestly, so this is like my first experience. So I've been with my girl for almost a decade.
Mm.
And throughout the years, it has been a bumpy ride. Like
Mm.
there's sometimes that I'm like, "Ooh, is she gonna make it?" But this time, when she went in, I was really serious. Like I don't know if she's gonna make it. I didn't know if we was gonna make it out the hospital. So it was a really, really hard time. But I wear just being with her and holding her hand through the hardest time of her life and supporting her family, I wear it as a badge of honor. And I'm just so proud and honored to have served her
Mm.
that I just wear it proudly. Yes, I can get sentimental. Yes, I can tear up a little bit, but I'm not so sad. And I didn't just lose my patient. Like I lost like my little sister and I lost my bag. Like that I was making I was her main nurse. So like, I was making an amazing salary working with her. So I lost my friend, I lost my job, I lost a lot. But just to know that I served her to the best that I could, and I poured everything into her that was her last. That was our last. I
Mm,
feel proud. Like, I gave her my all, and she went out with a bang.
mm,
She went out with a bang. They gave her 1 week. I gave her 10 months.
mm. That's amazing. And when it comes to, let's go to a different topic here. Now, when it comes to getting reimbursed, how do you submit the bill to the agencies like Medicaid, Medicare? And how long does it take for you to get reimbursed?
Yeah, so you bill, like, at the end of your shift,
Mm,
and with Medicaid, you can get paid every week, you know? So the billing cycle starts on Wednesday, so you just bill whatever hours that you worked before Wednesday, you type it in, you type in your hours worked, like, right after your shift, and you could get paid weekly.
wow, that's a lot faster than I was expecting. I mean, this is a government agency, so I was thinking it was going to take months.
No, you get paid weekly. The only thing is, like, let's say you miss your billing cycle. So if you don't bill within the week, you pass the Wednesday, then you do have to wait 3 weeks for the cycle to kind of like regenerate. So that is a thing. That is a thing. So some people that want that like weekly consistent paycheck, then make sure you bill your worked hours. Don't get it twisted. Don't be
Yeah,
billing things that you did not work, because that's a whole can of worms you don't want no smoke with. Okay.
yeah.
But just bill consistently in your week, and you will see a paycheck every week, electronically or by mail.
Now, are the taxes deducted from that paycheck or are they not?
Nope. And this is
Mm.
why I still need to have a lesson. So, yes, I started a business. I started an LLC
Uh-huh.
to help me out, because I was like, oh, you want me to pay how much? Wait a minute, hold up. What can I do? And I started an LLC, and I be deducting, deducting, deducting. I'm like, Thank you, Lord." Thank you to my accountant.
Now, how much did you owe that first year because you didn't
Oh my god.
realize this?
My first year, so that was the first 100,000 that I made as an LPN. So my first year I owed about 17,000.
Mm.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, that's rude." But then I got put on to game, and because I was doing a research, I'm like, there gotta be a better way than this." So then I was like, "Okay, let me just start an LLC and see what I could do. Let me get me a little accountant." And then I went from 17,000, and I actually ended up making more money, and I paid like 5,000 the
Mm.
next. So I was
Wow.
like, "Okay, considering what I made, so what I gotta pay back," I was like, "You can have that. Bye. Just, don't audit me and leave me alone. That's it."
Yeah. And what kind of expenses can you write off? Like, can you deduct from your, finances from your
My
business?
car, so I even was, like, doing tricks and bounds, like, my car, I put my car into my business, so it's like my business bought my car.
Mm.
So, like, my business bought my car, so I wrote off my car. I, the gas, miles, I travel a lot, so I put my whole life expenses on that joint.
No, I mean, that's actually writable. Those are deductible expenses, though.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, "It's business."
Mhm.
Because listen, technically, when I'm in Puerto Rico, they still calling me and asking
Mhm.
me, should they do
Yeah.
this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
my work still calling me
Exactly.
still
That's still
checking
work.
in me checking in on my patient while I'm in Jamaica. I'm still checking in, "Is everything alright? Okay." You know, I'm still working.
Yeah.
So,
You could pretty much write off almost everything in your life if you
I
think
pretty
about it.
much
I
do.
mean,
Even my
because you're
edu
spending a
even
lot of time with that patient too.
Yeah, even me going back to school.
Mhm.
So, getting
Yeah.
my RN, I wrote that all
Mhm.
off
Mhm.
on my taxes.
Mm.
Anything continuing education, anything, I wrote that all off, like, all off on my taxes.
Yeah. Now, one thing people need to understand is that all of this needs to go through your LLC's account, your checking account, credit card,
Yeah,
whatever the case, so that you can track it properly. And if you ever
yeah.
get audited, it's all going through your business and not your personal. You
Mhm.
got to keep them separate, right?
I know, and that was a hard thing for me. It
Yeah.
was, like, so annoying to transition, but then I was like, "You know what?" because every year my accountant be like, girl. I'm like, okay, all right, all right, all right. So yes, I got my business account, my business bank account, my business credit cards, and I do my transactions through my business credit card and my business account. So like, yes, you are right. You have to separate them, and mhm.
Mm,
It is a growing pain also
yeah.
to transition.
Mm,
Like anything new, it's a growing pain. It's gonna be uncomfortable at first, but I'm a believer in like fight that fear. Like
yeah.
anything that like, first of all, like this has to be a thing because we see like wealthy people living.
Mm,
They're living on yachts and they're living lavishly and they're living comfortably. So obviously living a very comfortable and nice life is obtainable.
mm,
And just because it's unfamiliar to you doesn't mean that it's a scam,
mm,
or you're going to get in trouble or like anything like that. Just venture off sometimes. Like, don't be afraid to start something new. Don't be afraid, to be uncomfortable learning new things, because like starting an LLC, it is uncomfortable because you don't even know, like you have to pay for that LLC. Like
yes.
like you have to pay for that business. Like, everybody's always saying like start a business, start a business, start a
Mm,
business. But it's just like you have to actually like keep up with that business. Like there's
mhm,
actually like articles of organization, like things like you have to do to actually like start that business that makes like that business actual a credible business,
mm. Yeah.
so
Yeah. Here in California, we have to pay an $800 licensing fee for our LLC every year. And I
yeah,
have two LLCs right now. And
yeah,
so like I started another LLC this past year, and I had to pay the 2024 LLC fee as well as the 2025 LLC fee. So for the two businesses in 2025, and then for one business in 2024. So I had to pay $2,400 in total for these three businesses just to
yeah.
have the business license.
Just to have the business license.
Crazy.
I know. And in New York, New York and Cali,
Mhm.
we're like, long distance relatives.
Yeah.
We're coming from the same branch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing over here.
Yeah.
So,
So let me ask you a few other things. Do you have any children?
no, not yet. I
Okay.
just got married.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's talk about that. Okay. How did you meet your spouse?
Oh, this is like a whole other podcast episode. But listen,
Mhm.
through the glory of private duty nursing, I was granted the flexibility to be able to take this 12-day trip to Egypt. But I met a young man, and he didn't even speak English, but his spirit was so sincere, genuine, and honest, like very pure. And I was very attracted to that. He was like very masculine and professional. He was working on this like luxury cruise ship that I was on. Nonetheless, we took a picture together. We exchanged contact, we exchanged pictures. I wasn't taking anything serious. I'm just like, he's a young man working. I'm in Egypt. And like I said, I gave it to God. I'm not really worried about looking for anybody or anything like that. And I don't know if it's game or whatever, but he was speaking to me and he was just like, I'm going to be honest with you. So he's using Google Translate at this point as we're texting. And he's like, I meet a lot of people from all over the world on this ship, but he's like, you're the first person that I ever seen that feels like my wife. And from the day we met, everything has just been so genuine and so pure. He asked me to be his wife, and I was like, well, God told me you my husband. So I spun the block. I spun the block. I went back to Egypt 5 months later and I married him.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long ago did you meet him?
So I met him in June. I went back this December and I married him and I lived with him for almost 2 months.
Mm,
And it was pure joy.
mm,
I mean, we literally met that one time and our conversations were just like through phone, and he barely spoke English. And he works so hard. He
mm.
works so hard. He works like 7 days a week, 14 hours a day for $200 USD.
Wow.
And he's a young man. All of his like older colleagues and everybody, like they have the utmost respect for him. And he doesn't do anything, like he doesn't do any show offy things. Like he's just a very humble, hardworking, genuine man. and I took his virginity. Like, he's Muslim, and he's like serious. He's like, my virginity is for my wife. Like, and they stand on business. That's
Mm,
one thing I respect about Muslims. A lot of times, no, it's not 100% of the time, but for the most part, especially like in Muslim ran countries,
mhm.
they do not play that. They stand on business about God.
So where is he now?
He's in Egypt.
Uh,
So yeah, I just finished my paperwork to get him over here. I'm already almost done with the paperwork to send over to the consular.
when he moves here, is he going to be living with you in Westchester?
No, I plan on being in Texas.
Uh, and why
Yeah.
Texas?
So Texas, I'm gonna say like Texas right now is lit. Texas is popping. Texas is beautiful. Texas is clean. The workforce is amazing, especially for healthcare. Like I feel like even to like apply for my NP, for my nurse practitioner program here, the program is almost like $30,000, and I had to like pretty much give them blood, sweat, and tears to just even get into the program or even be considered. Where it's like in Texas, it's just like, okay, you got a license, okay, you have this interview. It was like very much easier for me to have access to get into the program in Texas, and plus, I'm paying almost $2,300 for a one bedroom, 650 square foot apartment. With
2300.
almost 23. So it's 2250.
Mm.
Okay. 2250. So I'm paying $2,250 for a one bedroom, 650 square foot apartment. Okay. Where I just applied for a townhouse in Texas for $2,400, three bedrooms, two-car garage, brand spanking new. Nobody ever lived in there, with a huge backyard, pool, jacuzzi, gym, the sauna center, playground, dog park in the complex unit. I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm out.
it's a no-brainer for sure.
I'm
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, and it's
And
so clean and it's thriving. Like jobs were already calling me just when I went to go visit. Like they're like, "Did you move?" I'm like, "Nah, okay, well, let me know. I have work for you. Say less." And then I learned how to work as an independent contractor in Texas because I was like, I am really an advocate for being a nurse entrepreneur. I love to work for myself. And Texas has the same thing where you could bill through Medicaid, but it's called the Texas Health Steps.
mm,
So you can just, and they're legit. Texas, you just apply, you follow the prompts, you do what you need to do. They kind of tell you step by step what you need to do, get it done, and you have access to being a private provider in Texas through the Texas Health Steps program.
okay, so to become a private duty nurse and be able to bill in Texas, you just go through. You said the Texas what?
Health Steps
Texas Health Steps. Okay,
program.
and that's a website that they have. And you just go to the website and you apply
Yes,
for it.
but it's like Medicaid, like you can still bill Medicaid. So for New York, it's called eMedNy, right?
Mhm,
For Texas, it's called Texas Health Steps.
mhm,
And you can still use the same NPI. So I have my NPI number. I just use my NPI number there,
mhm. Wow.
and there you go.
And how do you get the NPI number? Is it that though? Did you receive that through eMedNy when you applied?
You get your EIN. So again, I need to put a package together and bottle it and sell it. But you get an EIN, so like you get a tax ID number.
Mhm.
So you get a tax ID number, and yes, once you have a tax ID number and you apply through eBenny, then yes, they will give you an MPI number.
Wow. And what is an NPI number for people who don't know?
I believe it's a national provider indicator, like identification number. I
Mm.
I really could be making that up. Please don't quote me, but it makes the most sense.
Okay, so
I think
an
it's a
NPI
national
number.
provider
Okay, an
identification number.
NPI number is, yeah, National Provider Identifier, and it's a unique 10-digit number that identifies healthcare providers. It says
Yes.
here that it's used in place of other provider identifiers in HIPAA standard transactions. So whenever you're going to make a transaction with the government, you need an NPI number to do that.
Yes.
Okay, got
Thank you
it.
so much for fact checking.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so glad I was right.
You were right. You were right. Okay, so where are you going from here? You said you're gonna end up going to Texas and you're gonna work as a private duty nurse out there through your LLC. What is the goal?
So my goal is to get settled into Texas, learn the grounds, and immediately when I get into Texas, so I'm hoping to hear back this weekend by a nurse practitioner program that I applied to, Texas Women's University. I'm pretty sure like I did amazing on the interview, so I'm pretty sure like they would want me as a student. So pretty much I'm just going to be focused on school and work, school and work and
Wow.
waiting for my husband. So yes, so I had to wait for my husband. So I'm like, in the meantime, I'll just keep my head low, living in my new little abode, my little resort that I worked hard
Right.
for.
Yeah. And okay, so I have plenty of people who may be interested in becoming private duty nurses. How can they reach out to you if they're interested in doing the same?
Well, they can reach out to me. So I am building my platform on Instagram.
Mhm.
You can look me up, PDN for you. And apologies in advance if my Instagram isn't like all that popping, but I am growing it. So you can DM me, and you can also find me at Be the Girl You Love on Instagram. So you can just follow me. If you have any DMs for me, you can DM me. Eventually I will be putting coursework together, like a package together that I can bundle this information and even provide like coaching down the line. I'm just familiarizing myself and getting accustomed to like this social media and being more out there. So please pardon me, world, if I'm not like all the way together, but I'm still human, I'm still real, I'm still actually living this life, and I'm still accessible. So yes, Be the Girl You Love on Instagram, and also PDN for you. And I also have my PDN for you website that you can click and you can actually apply and be a private duty nurse. I will be finding more families in need and sharing this information with families, because altogether this platform is created to connect private duty nurses with families in need of home care in an area near you.
If you enjoyed this video, then watch this video here of a psychiatric nurse practitioner that makes well over $600,000 a year.